And you have to dial it into a thousandth of an inch.
Piggens.
Piggens.
What are you doing, buddy?
You're in the interview. So,
He can be
oh
in
my
the interview.
gosh,
It's
so
cool.
funny.
That's gonna be. I think it might be a theme. We're just
Yeah.
gonna have dogs in the interview all the time,
Yeah.
or maybe cats.
Maybe
I'm
that.
sure Fort's all over. We'll have all sorts of animals in here.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so
Action.
we're rolling.
We are. We made it.
Just gotta forget about the cameras.
Okay.
Cassandra.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for allowing us to come into your workspace and learn a little bit more about you today.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
We're here with you today in your machine shop. Cassandra, tell us a little bit more about you, how you got here, where you're from.
So I was born and raised here in Springdale, Arkansas, and I first discovered machining back in 2010 in July. I very specifically remember it. I was working in California repairing power hammers with a blacksmith, and he had to make some bearings, and he was making them on an old lathe, and I was completely fascinated. I love math and I love science and I love materials and the physics of moving heavy materials and moving metal in general. I love history. Like I went to college shortly, and one of my passions was translating Latin.
Oh,
So history is so rich, and so it just felt like kind of all the things together that I really loved. I love math. I went back again to college shortly, just a while back, a couple years ago, and I'd forgotten how much I just really loved math. Like calculus was the funnest class for me, and physics was so fun. Like just, I really loved math. So machining really coupled all those things together, and it was history, like, manual machining, these old machines from the 40s and 50s or earlier. I've ran machines that are from the 1800s and machined perfectly great parts. It's just impressive, the history that is in those machines,
absolutely.
and what all they've done. So once I discovered machining, I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do now. I dropped out of college, traditional college, and went to NTI in Springdale. And I walked into the machine shop, and the teacher was like, well, do you like the smell in here? I was like, yeah, it smells great. It smells like cutting oil. It's a little different than motor oil. It's got a very distinct smell. And when you're machining, it gets hot, so it's very unique. And he's like, okay, well then you'll be fine. Shortly thereafter, I realized that there weren't many women in the trade. I truly had no idea. Like I went into it was like so naive. I was
Blissful
such a
ignorance.
naive individual at the time. I was like, everybody's gonna love machining and they're gonna be passionate about it and they're gonna think it's the coolest thing ever and we're all gonna have a great time. And I was kind of met with not exactly that. A little more like, why are you here? Like, what are you doing? This is weird. So it was very interesting to me, getting through school, and learning that there were these biases
Yeah.
towards women, machining and the different treatment and things like that. So, but I was still like, well, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. So I was still just like super gung ho. And I got my first job over in Tulsa. We went and toured a shop, and I fell in love with the place. It had the biggest machinery I've ever seen in my life, and I was like, I'm doing that. That's where I'm going. And I called him, and I was like, what do I do to work for you?
Yeah.
Because I'm coming. I'm going to move to Tulsa, and I'm gonna come work there. And he was just like, okay. And, I interviewed and a lot of confusion. I was met with, why do you, why do you want to work here? And it was just, it was like I had to sell myself as a person to be considered for the job and what qualities that I would bring with
Yeah.
not only my certificate in machine tool technology. It was like, well, I'm an on-time individual, I mean, like a normal interview,
You
but
had
it
to
was
get
also
them.
like, I really want to do this, like,
Yeah.
because there was just some little pushback and
You had to get them to
confusion.
look past the fact that you're a female. They were
Yeah.
looking at you as a female first.
Yeah, they're like, it's so dirty in there. Like,
You're like, yeah, no.
haven't you seen it?
You're like,
Like,
yeah,
have you, like,
let's do
yes.
this.
I'm
Let's get
like,
started.
you have the coolest machine shop I've ever seen in my life. Like, all I want to do is work here.
I think you said something I think that I liked a lot. Um, you said naive. And I think um, being naive, I think that's where a lot of opportunities come from. Uh, you know, perhaps had you been more cognizant of the pushback you would have received, it might have changed your perspective going into it.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I would have been like I'm already a nervous kind of anxiety type person, so I would have been like, yeah, I'm not too sure about that. I feel like over time it has added more, I've added more restriction to myself because of the different interactions you get
Yeah,
and it's confusing.
whether we like it or not, our environment molds us,
Right.
right? But your
Yeah.
naivete that that helped you,
It did, yeah, for sure. I mean, it helped me just be like, well, I know this is what I want to do. I'm just gonna go do it. Like I don't understand what the, confusion is. This seems really cool. What you're doing is cool,
right?
and I want
Right.
to be a part of it. That was really the my main point when I, started working as a machinist was like, this is what I love and want to do.
The other thing that you said that I think bears a little bit more exploration is the history. I was watching. Well, I've been watching. I think a lot of people are familiar with Union Pacific and their heritage fleet. Um, the what they've done for quite a while. They'll go back through their stock of locomotives, the ones that would have some sort of fame attached to them. They would restore. The most famous, I think, the most famous of which is the Big Boy locomotive, which a lot of people follow on social media and will travel to go see it pass through the various areas that it goes through. And it actually comes relatively close here to Northwest Arkansas, not through it, but close enough that it's oftentimes a small drive. But as I was following that, and I do follow it, and they were disassembling this thing, which is a fascinating video on how they moved it. They had to
Yeah.
move it first, and it's so big and it's so heavy that it literally deformed the rails
Wow.
from just sitting
Yeah.
in one spot.
Yeah.
So when they moved it, they had to take it to one of their locomotive yards, and they had to disassemble it. Well, they're having to remake something that was originally made, so long ago that most of the technology required it's not available. It has to be remade from scratch, and a lot of that um, has a great deal to do with machining. But I think what we fail to realize, especially in today's age, because everybody's focused on electric cars and things like that, they don't realize that electric motors have been in the workshop for about just as long as any other technology that we would be using.
Hmm.
And remaking those parts reminds you that those parts had to be made originally
Yeah.
back when these locomotives and other great big pieces of like historical American machinery were made, and how did they do it back then? So there is a ton of history. Are you sleeping? He's,
You're boring him.
I know he is, but that history is just like
Yeah,
fantastic.
it really is.
Speaking of history, you kind of mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned California. You mentioned Tulsa. Born here,
Hmm.
grown up here, left a little bit. Why back here in Northwest Arkansas?
So I was in Tulsa for a couple years until 2016, and then I moved to Illinois. So I have another short stint in Illinois repairing machinery, and that's where I learned about scraping and flaking, and these are techniques used to make a piece of material extremely flat. So when restoring machinery, putting things back together, especially if it's a close tolerance machine, those items have to be very flat and geometrically true. Um, so I worked in that shop for a couple years. Had some health things kind of shift my life. I had really driven myself to do big, heavy things and hard things. And it really started to be extremely present in my physical body, that it was just kind of too much, even though I loved it so much. So I decided to move back here, to be closer to family. And it was just kind of getting difficult to be trudging through and like, chasing all these ideas of machining. And there were so many other things that I wanted to do. I wanted to be a traveling machinist, where you go out into like a power plant, and you set up machinery around to machine in place. That's a thing. There's so many different subsets of machining that just nobody knows about, and it's so interesting and so cool. And I wanted to do all that on the biggest scale ever. Um, which physically was just hard for me. So I moved back and I worked shortly at a press shop in Bella Vista, putting those skills to use, scraping and understanding things being truly round, truly flat. And uh, and then I got a job at Pratt& and Whitney. And there I was able to work. I ran the largest horizontal boring mill there. Um, and so I worked with the largest pieces, and it was a much more feasible, physically. It was easier, but it was still like really tough. I mean, you're climbing up on this huge rotary table. There's literally a ladder on it, and sledgehammering 4,000-pound fixtures into place. And I'm just like, oh, this is getting kind of hard.
That's meaty.
Yeah, you're like, well, and you have to dial it into a thousandth of an inch.
Piggens.
Piggens.
What are you doing, buddy?
You're in the interview. So,
He can be
oh
in the
my
interview.
gosh,
He's
so
cool.
funny.
That's gonna be. I think it might be a theme. They're just
Yeah,
gonna have dogs in the interview all the time,
yeah,
or maybe cats.
maybe
I'm
cat.
sure before it's all over, we'll have all sorts of animals in here. Okay, so you just hit something that I like a lot.
Yeah.
There's this whole great um, like there's sounds. It sounds like there's a multitude of careers one could go into in machining, and that there's a lot of options for kids out there that are like wondering what they're going to do. Like the trades are
Hmm.
something that I think is often overlooked. That is a lot of options for any boys and girls that are listening
Yeah.
to this particular interview. You just touched on just a one, like a traveling machinist. Like I think it truly is. I mean, it's probably limitless possibilities in this particular discipline.
Yeah, I mean the place is literally called in-place machining is a business,
Okay.
and they, yeah, go around and they have, and the machinery is so different. Some people will take, like, you can take the head off of the Bridgeport here behind me and make a fixture plate to be able to screw it onto a wall. Maybe there needs to be a hole bored, who knows where, over in Bentonville.
Yeah.
So you just take this piece and go bore a hole over there.
Yeah.
There's that type of machining, and like excavation equipment. People are in place machining all the time.
Yeah.
You can make real simple line boring, bore out little holes so they can put their knuckles back in and operate their machinery again. It really, cutting metal is is out there so much. I think it gets missed
Right.
definitely
Right.
by a lot of younger people. I didn't. Uh, Nobody told me about machining. Like, I luckily stumbled upon it.
Yeah.
I was into mechanics and my motorcycles and my Datsun, but I still didn't know about machining. I kept hearing the word lathe, and I was like, what a weird word.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't wrap my head around what is a lathe. So,
Well, lathe right
yeah,
behind you as
lathe.
example.
Love running a lathe. And
Yeah.
the bigger it gets, the funner it is because it's terrifying. But
They-
it's so
they're
cool.
a little terrifying. They really
But
are. Yeah.
yeah, it goes fast, and yeah,
It's
but
like, ooh, that
but
spiny,
very
shiny,
cool.
spinny thing. This, don't stick your finger in there.
Yeah, yeah, no, don't do that.
So you're here working Northwest Arkansas in support of other businesses as well.
Yeah.
But would you say that overall, like like is this community? Um, for one, it's growing and it's changing. But do you find this community to be a positive place to be doing the kind of work that you do? Do you see the opportunities here? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think there's so much opportunity, really. What limits me is, my machinery, really, is I only have so much, and people need bigger things machined, or, just different things done. But a lot of people reach out with I think projects that they didn't know were possible until they spoke with me. Like, I do also some prototyping and 3D printing
Yeah.
and 3D modeling, and people are like, I have this idea, but I don't know, like, if I don't know how to make it. Do you know how to make it? You know, that's really what I'm finding. And I love that part of it, is like coming up with the solutions to either somebody's problem or their idea. Um, so there's a lot of that out there, and I think when people realize that that's possible, it they get really excited. It's really cool to be a
So
part of that.
yeah, so you do additive and subtractive.
Additive manufacturing and subtractive
It's
manufacturing.
very
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
You kind of you've given us a little bit of information already, but for those of you that are watching, what would you like those people to know about your business they may not know, or about you and your business?
Um, let's see. I mean, I really love starting with raw materials and making something from that. Um, I That's really, my passion is, somebody has a problem or they're trying to fix something and are looking to get something made. Um, I I mean, I also get really excited repairing stuff. People were like, well, I broke this and now I don't know what to do. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's not a problem. Like, I can take care of, I can fix this. Or, just lending advice on, maybe somebody has a lathe and it needs help or adjustment, or just having the knowledge that, like, I haven't met people in this area that have the same experience as I do. I chased down very specific shops that did very specific things to get very specific knowledge that I knew was going to be lost technology at some point. Like I'm always like the business I worked for in Illinois, they've closed. That technology's gone. Those people are no longer doing that. And it's really important to me to try to carry that on to some degree. I feel like that weight is kind of on me to put that knowledge to use and for people to know that it exists and that it's a thing and that it's real and it's very useful. So just extending it like into people's minds so that they can then like think about it and put it into their lives and go, oh, I see how this could be useful. Or, it's really just like such a big, broad idea to like, I just want people to know that the knowledge exists,
Knowledge
really.
exists, the solution exists, you've got the knowledge, and
Yeah.
you've got the solution. It
Yeah.
also touches back to the history that you mentioned
Yeah.
before. And what's funny to me, I was really amused. Um, one, and we talked about it briefly. But one of the reasons I know that Dalton is the perfect partner for this is this: every time we've gone anywhere, uh, he just gravitates to it. That curiosity, he's got that curiosity to be able to see these things, and he automatically sees value in these things, and then you can tell the what's and the whys. You know it, like you geek, like just like deep geek here,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I'm
It's
just
very,
totally into. Um, and you and I have some projects that we're supposed to be
there's
doing.
so many
So
projects
many
with
projects.
so many people who are close to me. It's just like
Right.
we have these ideas
We
and
just got to start doing them. But that's the thing, is they can be done. That's one of the most, to me, I think one of the coolest things about what you do is you have an idea and you can bring it into fruition. And so many people, like, they want to, but they can't do that.
yeah.
You can. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Taking just a raw piece of material, aluminum, steel, a block, and whittling it down into whatever your imagination could lend you to. I mean, or turn something, thread it, like I can make a screw or make a nut. I can mill all the flats on it. I mean, those are just the most basic items. I mean, it's quite limitless in what you can create to make whatever you want.
Well, that'll be like, I think the next interview we do with you is going to be like following you through the process of making something. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it would be fun because it's a,
Piggens is running the camera now.
yeah, well, I
Yeah,
mean, he's experienced.
he is.
Not
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah. He knew exactly what equipment to get out of the cases when we
he
got
did
here. So
earlier.
I'm gonna change gears on you here,
Okay.
um, and we're gonna get a little bit more personal. Um, a question we asked in the last interview, I'm gonna ask you, is is there a is there some philosophy or advice that you've been given, um, that in your business or in your personal life or both, you try to remember and or live by?
Philosophies.
Higgins, I like your hoodie. Your hoodie's great.
Yeah, it really is.
There we go.
Mhm. So much of my training was very rigid. It's dangerous equipment. So, I feel like I've had to add some of my, own philosophies, kind of like navigating through machining to make it like more of my life instead of like just a job. Um, where there's really a piece of my heart that went and goes into everything that I make. Um, And I don't think, I mean, I'm not sure if I've gotten a ton of advice, to be honest.
Hey, well, that says something.
Um,
To be
yep,
able to do what you do.
I have I have like one person that's given me like some advice, and it's usually, um, you know, he's an older gentleman. He owned the shop in Illinois, and he really does kind of put everything into perspective, um, and kind of helps me understand, like, even when something's hard and not quite going right, that, well, this is kind of why, because it's challenging or because it's difficult. You know, some things can be really hard to machine, and it kind of bums you out because you're like, I know I can do this, but why is this being so challenging? You know, and he's really good at explaining those things. But as far as like advice or like philosophically, I feel like it's just in me that, like, I just care about what other people, you know, want to be like creating, and I want to be a part of it. Um, you know, when I went and picked up my machinery and bought this mill from a guy, he said, you won't make it. You He said you'll never make any money doing that. So I know that that's not like the easiest thing to hear.
Right.
You know, I have people in my corner who encourage me, but I don't think I'm doing something that is really the the same as like just a general machine shop. You know, not like the machine shops that I've worked in where it's just like a service provided, pick up, drop off, go. You know, I want to be a part of people's lives. So I'm kind of building my own philosophies, I guess. Like, while I'm doing this, I didn't it's not what I set out to start doing. I was like, well, I'll machine some cylinder heads and do this and that and make stuff, and it'll be I'll just be in the corner machining, but it's not really quite that. It's more about working with people and interacting with them, and seeing how I can introduce machining into their lives.
I think you gave us advice. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you didn't think you did, but I think you did. Um, Paraphrase a little bit. Your heart's in it,
Yeah.
and that's what gets you through the things that are difficult or that may bum you out. But your heart's there,
Yeah.
and that's probably what it takes to get through things that are difficult. So I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. That's good. That's good. And I think building one's philosophy um, is an important part of character building. Whether or not some of it was given to you, I think it's all given to us to some degree,
Yeah.
right? We are a product of that which is around us, but we all have to build our own, right? We have to live and die by our own creed. All right, so new to this episode is a new question I came up with, which you may not have an answer for, but
Okay.
maybe you do. You got a book that you're reading right now,
A book.
or one that you've recently read? Anything you can point to as a book somebody else should pick up?
Oh. Um,
Doesn't have to be nonfiction or fiction, it can be whatever.
sure, yeah. Well, actually, I did pick up a it's like a detective puzzle game book
Okay. I'm interested in this.
called Myrtle.
All right.
So essentially, you're playing like Clue, but it's in a book. So you're given a scenario and the bits of facts that you need, and you have to deduce who committed the crime.
Okay.
But it's in a book. So
It was Mr. Piggins.
it was Mr. Pickens
It sounds like he would be a
in
Clue
the machine
character
shop
in the
Yeah.
machine shop.
with the carbide end mill. So, I mean,
Yeah.
now I have to write my own Myrtle.
You do.
So how far are you through the book?
I've done a couple, of the
It's good so far.
yeah, yeah.
Fantastic.
It's very interesting.
And everybody
Yeah,
knows what. And now everybody knows. All the people that I've reached out to, it was like, all right,
Yeah.
you want to do this?
that's a thing.
That's a thing
Yeah.
now. Go to the library.
Yeah, yep. I got it at the little bookshop in Bentonville.
Cassandra, this has been an absolute joy getting to sit here with you and learn about not only your business but uh, your history in getting here. And I know I appreciate it a lot. I also, appreciate that today I get to leave with a little bit of your philosophy that I didn't have before.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to the story. I mean, there's a lot of richness there um, that even I forget about,
Yeah.
until somebody's asking you, and you're like, oh, yeah, no, this is my life. So it's I've always wanted to share it. So I'm really glad that we got to do this.
Good. Hopefully,
Me too.
yeah. Hopefully not so painful that you won't mind letting us come here again and showing us how you run the machinery. Maybe you can lay out Dalton some wicked drumsticks.
Yeah.
Some metal drumsticks.
Yeah,
Metal, yes.
metal drumsticks.
Aluminum. Yeah. Titanium.
Yes. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much.
No, thank
Look
you.
forward to seeing you again. Hopefully, here between two cameras.
Sweet.
It's like between two ferns or
Yeah.
it's between two cameras.
Yeah, between two
Two
cameras.
cameras.
Three actually. Three
Right.
three cameras and a Piggens.
Yeah.
Next time, between two machines.
Between two machines. I like
Yeah.
that. Well, fantastic. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, thanks.